The second piece that I'm sharing with you today is quite a long title in French, so it's Petite Suite serieuse pour concert de famille by Betsy Jolas, and it translates in English as a serious petite suite for family concert. Betsy Jolas was born in 1926, and she is still living. So that puts her at 95 years old. So not only do we get to talk about a female composer, but she is one of the, she is the only one in this set of 5 pieces that is still living. So a little bit of background about Jolas, just in case you're not familiar with her work. She studied at the Paris Conservatoire under Messiaen and Milhaud, and she was actually a prodigy also of Pierre Boulez. She holds many awards and honors for her compositions. In 1975, she became the professor of analysis at the Paris Conservatoire, and she succeeded her former teacher, Messiaen, and later became the professor of composition at that same institution. So we'll move now to a little bit of an overview about the piece. This suite has 5 total movements, but they're very short, as indicated by the title. The shortest movement is only 9 bars long, and the entire piece in the Billaudot edition is just 2 pages. That's it for all 5 movements. Each movement is in a different meter, so we'll talk about that a little more. And there's 1 note per hand or 2-part, playing a thin texture. Like a Baroque era suite, Jolas includes the function of each movement in the titles. So you'll see the movements titled Prelude, Etude, Danse, for example. Unlike the typical Baroque era suite, only the 4th movement has repeated material. There are no key signatures used, although some accidentals are present, and modern stylistic elements are used in each movement. We're going to pause and play the piece here. If you'll take a listen with me. And now we'll follow with a pedagogical discussion of the piece. It's best to ID the use of 5-finger hand positions throughout each of these 5 movements. So I really feel that her compositional strategy here throughout the suite was using 5-finger hand positions in all of the movements. So the way she approaches it is these 5-finger hand positions can promote performance in different registers and locations on the instrument. So it's very exploratory. Jolas does not attempt to validate a specific tonal center, but she rather explores the pitch possibilities available within those 5-finger spans chosen. So it really creates this fun, exploratory approach for students and helps them to avoid getting stuck with the concept of one hand position. I know years ago when I first started teaching, some of the most popular repertoire books had the students stay within this kind of middle C hand position for, depending on how long the student stayed in the book, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And by the time you moved from C position and started going, well, this is G position, I remember the student would just be so kind of flabbergasted, like it's a whole new world when we move hand position. So Jolas is bringing in, well, it could be D, E, F sharp, G, A, or D, E, F natural, G, A. So she's very open about different possibilities here, and I think that's great for our students. Okay, so I'm going to do a few excerpts here. So the first movement is titled Entree, and it focuses on the D and the C 5-finger hand positions in the right hand. The left hand is going to focus on the F and the D 5-finger positions. So I'm going to bring you to the piano here and show you exactly what this looks like. On the second movement, we have mobile 5-finger hand positions. So this is explored in both the left and the right hand. Notice it's just one hand at a time. The left hand is outlining the interval of a fifth, and there's a descending sequence in the right hand where we start with the C 5-finger position, and we have the D, the E 5-finger positions in this right hand part. So we'll take a moment and I'll bring you to the piano and show you exactly what this one looks like. On the fourth movement, which is titled Etude, we have a stationary position. So the right hand, you're right here in the middle of the piano for C position. And then left hand, you're going to be using D position. So these two 5-finger positions are one step apart. So it's kind of a fun technical issue to work with on your student. Your hands are in close proximity. And as you see on the screen, I will play this excerpt and you can look at how close the proximity of the two hands are. All right, so we'll talk about a repertoire link to other French pieces of a larger scale. So I'm moving to a Debussy piece. His piece, Voiles or Sail, from his first book of preludes, is larger, obviously more advanced than Jolas's piece that we're discussing here today. Yet the similar use of 5-finger positions is a technical skill needed in both pieces. Sails features pentatonic scales made up of whole steps. And this pattern also lends itself to the concept of mobile 5-finger hand positions. So there's an example that I'll share with you on the screen found in measures 48 and 49. This is example 2-4. Each hand plays the pentatonic scale F sharp, G sharp, B flat, or if you want to stay with sharp, A sharp, C, and then D. So moving up in whole steps. And then after that 5-finger pattern, Debussy moves the hand up a whole step and begins another pentatonic scale, starting with A flat or G sharp and harmonically. So this is what's showing on your screen here. And then there's a second piece I'll point out, also by Debussy. We're focusing on Debussy for a moment. And this is an exercise based off of Czerny, of course. And it's a play on these 5-finger exercises that Czerny is so famous for. The beginning 6 measures, which I show in the example below, feature a left-hand C 5-finger position over the right hand, which is inserting this recurring A flat. And despite this very simplistic opening statement, I do want to say, of course, the piece is quite sophisticated with multiple tempo changes, meter changes. It has quick rhythms and ornaments, so I'm not taking away from that. But the use of 5-finger hand positions, however, is featured prominently throughout Debussy's work here, as well as in Jolas's Petite suite. mentioned in the opening statements about this work, there are 5 different meters. So every movement is in a different meter. The entrée is in 2/4 time. Prelude, the second movement, is in 6/8 time. So here, Jolas is encouraging the pianist to group the notes into the larger 2 beats per measure. She does this by indicating the tempo in terms of the dotted quarter note and stemming almost every measure in 2 groups of 3/8 notes, which is customary for this meter. So you can see this in example 2-3 above. Although 2/4 and 6/8 are different, primarily because they designate different note values as equaling 1 beat, both of these time signatures do focus the pulse of the music into 2 beats per measure. I'm going to move to the third movement, which is titled Duo, and it's in 3/4 time. The fourth movement, Etude, moves into new territory. It's in 5/8. So this is grouping the rhythm into groups of 3 and 2 beats at a time. Using this approach allows this unusual time signature to be transformed into recognizable units, counting 3s and 2s together. In the Bilodeau edition, the stemming of the 3/8 notes together, followed by a single quarter note in the right hand, shows support of this approach. So you can see this in the example I'm providing. The first measure there in the right hand, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or if you're counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So it's very easily seen the way that they stem in the Bilodeau edition. So it seems like, wait, 5/8 timeout. Where 5/8 just came out of nowhere. I mean, we're moving along 2/4, 6/8, 3/4, 5/8. Like, where does that come from? So I'm looking at 5/8 as a combination of 2 + 3 beats per measure. Then this fourth movement is not taking away from the progression of meters, but reiterating the sum of what has already been used. So I thought that was actually quite clever of her to kind of slip in this modern time signature. Maybe your student hasn't seen this before, but it's in a way that it's very plausible and able to be accomplished by a student. The last movement, the fifth movement, Danse, is in 4/4 time, and it should be considered as the final installment of the path, starting with 2, 3, 2 + 3, and lastly, 4 beats per measure. So I just wanted to share that with you on all of those meters. Seems a little overwhelming, but actually a very nicely charted journey of meters. So let's conclude this discussion. For what students would this piece be appropriate? Thinking through the students you have in your studio, I would say this piece is suitable for a late elementary or early intermediate student, ready to explore mobile 5-finger positions in a modern style, of course. This is a multi-movement work. However, each section is quite short in length and fairly undemanding. The piece is attractive to a less experienced student. There's an absence of pedaling, lack of heavy textures, simplistic voicing. Legato and staccato are the primary articulation goals. And this charming suite is extremely valuable. And that while it is small in size, it definitely has much to offer.